So I got an email earlier today. It was asking about these black textures here in Terrain Painter. That's PBR Terrain Paints. So this was the picture that was emailed to me, and this is the email that it came in here. So I'm looking at this, and I can tell you what you need to do first is the texture you're trying to paint that's black. Go into the Terrain Material Library and find it in the list. So Grass 2. So what you'll need to do is take all them textures out of there. Just take all the pictures out of all the slots so there's nothing. And then you do process of elimination. And what you do first, you put the base color in there. But when you pick your base color, you need to make sure that if you're going to put that in there, that the resolution of the picture matches what is right here. You have the option to set these when you make a new map or import a new terrain, but the default resolution for these three are 64 by 64, which is really, really low. I don't know why they're that low, but you can make your resolution 8192 by 8192, 4096 by 4096, 2048 by 2048, or 1024 by 1024. Anything a power of 2 you can do. It's got to be squared, So make sure the texture that you put in the base texture here is a 4096 by 4096. Now, just to make sure your texture is right, copy it and put it also in the ambient occlusion. It's not an ambient occlusion, but it'll work in there if the texture is good. If it's still black, then something else is going on. I have seen where sometimes the material is bad for some reason. The file's bad and it doesn't read right. I've seen that happen. So we got it. So that's what I would do first. Now once you get that, right, you got that working. If you want to, you can do the rest of the maps that are also base texture. See, every one of these, there's 5 slots. Each 5 slots have one base material. Think of the base material as being 5 components, and they're spread out between these different categories: base color, normals, roughness, ambient occlusion, height. So there is a base color that also has a base normals and a base roughness, a base ambient occlusion, a base height. Now, unlike the way we did the ambient occlusion, where we just put that in there and pasted it and saved it, if you want to see the normal mapping, you got to do the other 3 as well, or the other 2 as well. They all need to work together to work. So let's go into our other. Let's see. I may not have. I don't know which one I picked. Rockcliffe. So yeah, here's the normals, and we'll go and put the roughness in and the ambient occlusion. I'm just doing that so I don't got to keep navigating to that place. And then a height map. Now, unless you're baking a height map, you're not going to have an actual height map unless you downloaded the texture and it's already got it. But that don't actually have to be a height map. It depends on how much you want it, how good you want it to look, how much time you want to put in it. I mean, that's my opinion anyway. We all got opinions. Well, we'll just see. We reuse that. So once it does save, it'll show you now with the normal mapping on it. And any lighting, any specular, roughness, whatever, it would show up at this point in time. Now, that's base texture. You got 2 other kinds of textures, right, that are not the base. You got the macro and the detail as well. The detail and the macro also have their own resolution. Now, you can't change these once you made the textures, or you'll have to go back and rescale every one of those textures. So, going to the next thing, the macro. It's set to 2048 by 2048. So, just like the base, all 5 of these have their own little spot in base color. Think of it like this: macro base color, macro normal, macro ambient occlusion, macro roughness, macro height. So just think of it just the same way, but just in the macro slot. And the same thing applies for the detail. If you want to also use a detail, well, it also needs to match what's here, and you do it the same way. In fact, you can check a macro by only putting in its macro and ambient occlusion, and that'll tell you if it's working or not. Now, I think I already have. I got these saved, I believe. Some 2K ones. I just have to find them. There we go. I knew I'd find it. Alright, let's see. What are we going to throw in there? Oh, just so you know, proper grayscale does show up red. That's nothing wrong with that. That's what it's supposed to do. So, you probably will wonder that. Now, this ain't the way to do this because this is too damn dark. If you try to put that dark texture in there as a macro, you ain't gonna get nothing but pain. No, it's not gonna do right. You see, these things multiply each other basically. One accents the other, but if they're both very saturated or dark, it's gonna be oversaturated and over dark. But I'm gonna show you though. That ain't really what we're talking about. We're talking about the black texture, and this is what you can do to check and make sure that the macro's working. Hell, you may not be using a macro. That's fine too. I don't use them all the time either. So yeah, you see now we got both of them. Of course, you'll see the ambient occlusion. I'm sorry, you'll only see the base texture if you're really far away once the macro fades. But they do both show together. You're just not really seeing it yet. But you get really far away and then you'll see it fade to the other texture. And that distance, that fade distance is right here. In fade 1000. Make it 200, for example. Save texture. You'll see it's already. Once you get within 200, then it starts to show it. You also had a fade near, fade far, and you got macro distance attenuation. I don't even want to explain all that. And the same thing with detail. If you put a detail map in there, it'll show too when it's its turn. But you can have them all blend into each other as they fade into the next one. That's a lot of people do that. So we'll stick this one in there. We'll put that in the detail base. Man, I get tired of navigating to that spot every time. I wish it would just remember where it went. And they're going to be too dark because they're not prepared to be used not as a base or macro. I'll explain it in a minute. Let's go to the ambient occlusion, put in the detail ambient occlusion. Just like before, we'll just duplicate this one. Yes, I know it's not an ambient occlusion. This is just a test to make sure your textures work. Then you can worry about it making it accurate and all that. So saving it now. Once we get closer, we should see the detail. We probably are not going to see it with this all at 100%. We'll probably take that out. If you wanted to have the macro and detail and ambient occlusion, if you want to have the base and the macro and the detail all showing up, then well, you're going to probably need to. Oh, that's 4K. No wonder you dumbass. You got the 4K and the 2K. Now it didn't turn black, but it ain't working either. We gotta get 2K if we want to do that. But I'll show you what to do to make them so that they're not dark. And then that'll be it. I don't have nothing else to say. You can't use DDS either, so if you're using them, just know they're not going to work. Now, see how dark that shit is? But that's okay. I'm just showing you. This is how this works. You got the detail map. You fade it out. It fades out at 100. So 100, it goes to the macro. But you can have them blend into each other somewhat, which is what they're doing because they overlap a little. And the macro, of course. Oh, you also got, I know it's a lot of stuff, man. It is a lot of stuff. You also got, if you want it to draw far away, either the macro or the detail. Maybe you just want it right at the camera. So you put 0 and 0. This is how close they are. 0 means none. 1 is 100% opacity. 0 is none. So normally when you fly away, you will see it kind of fade in and fade out, but it's so much shit to explain. I can't explain it all right, not without breaking this thing down even further. Anyway, let's go to show you how these do. You'll need to load them into your photo editor. And it'll make sense here in a second. That didn't work. Let's see here. Let's see. Here we go. So we'll get that one of those grasses. Not the 4K one though. I can't tell what it is. Yeah, that's it. So what you need to do is run a high pass filter over it. If you want to use it also with a base map, that's what you need to do. High pass is also in Photoshop. Now re-export this in the same folder, and I'll just put like another number in it. I'm not really like making a bunch of names for this stuff. If I know what it is, that's all that matters. So we'll put that in here, and I'm going to take the detail out of here because that's just another layer of the same thing. But I'll show you how this works. Now it's only the base texture that you got to do that with. The ambient occlusion, roughness, height, and normals, they'll all be the same. It's only this one that you got to colorize or make a different color so that it does not overdo. And it'll overdo, believe me. Now that's kind of like a muddy stuff. I don't know that we're really going to see this without its normal mapping too, but I guess I do see it. So it's just one way to do this. You know, you can do other ways. You can use one of them as the base texture if it's the right resolution. That's what I did with these. These here, they're all just base textures, but they're using a macro as the base. That way I can do stuff up close and look better. These textures, these came from Unreal 5. I got them over here. They look alright, I think. I think they look alright. We got some sand. We got some sand ripples. You know, and we got some barnacle rocks. Rocks, I spelled it wrong. And then we got some weedies. Not the kind you eat, just the other kind of weedies. Weeds in the mud. Sand rocks. I'm crazy about that. We got stones. These stones here. I think this one actually came from Polyhaven. That's where I got that one. And we got that and that. But yeah, they got a lot of stuff in there. You're not supposed to. They don't want you to use it, they say, but I mean, like I say a lot of things. I guess you just don't. You don't want to be sharing this stuff with other people though if it's their assets. They don't like that. They want you to use them assets to only do Unreal things, and that way they help you out, you help them out once you make money. So I think that's going to be it. I can't think of nothing else. Like I said, sometimes your textures can be corrupt. Also, if you're doing the PBR terrain paints, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure you can only do 8-bit integer. 8-bit. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Up here in image mode, RGB grayscale index, whatnot, you also got precision. And I would tell you to put them all in 8-bit integer. A lot of the textures you get online, the really good ones, they'll be like 32-bit floating point, 16-bit floating point. Not only are they enormous size textures, but I think the game doesn't read those. I think it'll only read like certain ones if they're grayscale, or maybe it'll load them. I don't know. You could try it, but just check if there are any of them not 8-bit. Just make them 8-bit, because that'll eliminate a lot of possibilities, and then you can try it later to throw a higher one in there. But that's it, man. I can't think of nothing else. I probably said a lot of things that probably didn't need to really go over, but really all you needed to do is just the first couple things I said. Make sure your textures are right. Because if one of them's wrong, then they'll all be wrong, usually. Now, I've made a lot of videos on videos on this stuff, so checking the videos. I made a lot of tutorials on these PBR terrain paints. Oh, but yeah, I had the same problem. Mine were black too when I tried to. The first time I got the PBR terrain paint conversion thing done, where I was about to convert my level to PBR, and I realized how confusing it was. Not only did I wait a few more months before I really got into it, but I was irritated. I thought, man, I went to the forums and wrote. I feel bad for saying it, but I said, man, this is the worst update ever. Well, I mean, I didn't understand it, so it was not good for me. But I finally did get it, and now that I got it, I can help other people with it if you got the same issues. But it's good you did the right thing, going to PBR. You did the right thing, because they are superior, almost in every way. The only way that they're not superior is that you could have multiple resolutions on the other ones. They didn't have to all be the same as what the thing's set to. And there was only 4 of them went to each one. But anyway, that's pretty much it. If you want to think about the old style, the overlay is now what they call the base texture, basically. And the detail is actually what is now the macro, but it can also be the detail. Now, it's called a detail in the old paints. You know, you had overlay, normals, detail, and what was another one? There was another one. You had the base texture, or what they call the overlay. You had the detail map. You had normals map and one other. I figured if I repeated it, it'd come to me, but it didn't. I don't remember what it is. So yeah, those details became your base and macro maps in the PBR, and your overlay becomes the base. But you'll probably get in there and look at your old stuff and see, man, there's a lot of damn different resolutions for this stuff. Mine was anyway. I had all kinds of resolutions. I'm thinking, why the hell I did that, but yeah, I didn't want to convert anything. It was too much work. It's too much work, and it wouldn't look good. Scaling a 512 image up to 4K doesn't look good. If you got any other questions, let me know. I think I pretty much covered it all. All right, man. Have a good one. Everybody have a good night. I think I'm going to work on something. I got a lot of things I'm working on, so I've got a lot of things I'm working on and getting none of them done. I'm making slow progress, so I do want to get back to work on the eyeballs. I started to make the skull. You know, the skull that's going to go in the human exploding dummy. I started working on that. I just went to the sculpt tool and sculpted my own. out of their clay they use. I'm still learning how to sculpt in here good. But I can sculpt real good on regular clay, but in here it's a little different. I'll see if I can find the old Scully and bring him in here. Yep, I thought that fella looked kind of cute. What you think? Kind of looks like a monkey face. But yeah, it's actually pretty easy to use this if you use the mirror. Because what you do on one side will mirror over to the other side. See? You can do stuff pretty easily with that. It's pretty simple to use too. It just takes a while to master it, you know. You may not be good at it at first, but practice does make perfect. But anyway, I'm gonna work on him. I got to separate his jaw because he's gonna talk too. His tongue gonna stick out. And then I'll work on the muscle layer, and then the skin layer is already done. So I think it's gonna be good. It's gonna be the mod everybody talks about when it's finally done.